Like many of you, I'm incredibly excited for Cyberpunk 2077, and I came across this.
Which city district boasts the best burrito in town? The answers to these questions and more can be found at the address at the bottom of your screen.
And so to that address I did go, nightcity.love, and when you open this thing up, you're greeted with a wonderful website that has an advertisement for the Burrito XXL. I wanted to see what this burrito was all about, so I tried to click it, but it leads me to nothing. It leads me to nothing, so now we have to make this burrito.
Hi there, new to Night City? It's not so bad here.
Wake up, samurai. We have a burrito to make. Ah! Don't put duct tape on your face. Thank you to today's sponsor, Into the AM, a men's clothing brand which honestly makes some of the most comfortable shirts I've ever worn. Use my link down below at intotheam.com/chefpk to get 10% off and get ready to enter Night City in style. We're going to start off by making our very own adobada, or some kind of a chili paste or marinade. I'm using guajillos, pasillas, and anchos for this, just making sure that I remove all of the seeds and the stems before I start working with them. I want to make sure that I have equal parts of each before I throw in one dried habanero. The habanero is optional, but I think it gives it a really nice flavor and nice heat. The total amount of your chili should come out to about 170 grams or 6 ounces. Once you've removed the seeds and the stems, bake this at 350 degrees for about 5 to 6 minutes just to get them a little toasty. Once they're all nice and toasty, we're gonna take these and place them into a heat-proof bowl. Heat-proof bowl, please. Heat-proof bowl. Then we're going to add about 500 milliliters or 2 cups of boiling water to your chilies. This is going to start reconstituting them and making them nice and soft, mushy. Just make sure you have a nice tight lid on top of that so they can steam. Now, while you're letting this steam and get nice and mush, we're going to go ahead and get a few other things ready. We're going to be juicing a few limes for this. I'm using 3 limes, and this came out to about 236 milliliters worth of liquid, or 8 ounces. Next, we're going to go ahead and mince up 1 whole white onion for this. You want to make sure that it's nice and fine so that way it mixes into your marinade later. You're also going to need 3 to 4 cloves of chopped garlic, 1 gram worth of paprika powder, 1 gram worth of cumin, half a gram worth of crushed oregano, and half a gram worth of crushed coriander. Now, all of this is going to be for the marinade of our skirt steak. Now, skirt steak is a phenomenal grilling steak, but it does need quite a bit of cleanup. If you're not into cleanup, then you can use New York or ribeye if you want to be fancy, but skirt steak is also very cheap. I'm using about 3 pounds worth of skirt steak for this, and I'm just making sure that I remove as much of that fat off the top as possible. It's not really that great to chew on, and it was definitely the bane of my existence back in the day on one of our menus, but it's one of my favorite steaks. Pop this into a giant bowl and move back over to your nice mushy chilies. Now we're going to take all of those chilies and place them into a blender or a food processor without any additional liquid. Add in all of that lime juice you squeezed and start pureeing this over a high speed to try to turn it into a beautiful puree. After about a minute or 2, you should have somewhat of a paste forming, but this is too thick to be used as a marinade that I really want. So I added in a little bit of that soaking liquid that we didn't throw out, don't throw that liquid out, and continue to blend this up. You want to make sure you're going for something that has somewhat of a loose consistency. I pulled some of this aside because I'm going to cover some corn with this at a different time. I wanted this to be a little thinner, so I added in more liquid, followed by my paprika, then the cumin, and then the dried oregano, not the coriander. Go ahead and start pureeing this up a little bit while you clean, and then we're going to hit this with about 2 to 3 tablespoons worth of blended oil, followed by just the rest of that liquid. Go ahead and blend this until it is completely emulsified and you have this really nice marinade. This can be a little bit thinner if you really want, but I like this texture and this consistency. After placing all of this into a bowl, add in a bit of fresh cracked black pepper with your toasted coriander, followed by your garlic and all of those onions. The reason why I didn't puree it before is because I wanted it to be chunky. Season this with a little bit of salt and give this a good old stir. Once you have everything nice and stirred up, this is when you want to actually taste your marinade. This was on point and I was ready to go to the next step, which is actually marinating the steaks. Now, since this marinade is still thick, I like to make sure that I coat each steak individually as I layer the steak with the marinade, getting good coverage on the entire thing. Make sure you do this with each and every piece of the steak that you're using so you get full coverage, and so that way you don't have any weird areas that don't have any marinade attached to the steak. After an undisclosed amount of time, you should have all of your steak completely covered and completely marinated. Throw a lid on this and let it sit overnight, or at least for about 4 hours, while you try to fix this cabinet that apparently does not want to work. Now, the remainder of that marinade can be used for some really killer chicken tacos, so save that marinade, don't let it go anywhere, keep that for a while. Now we get to make one of my favorite things, which is Pico de Gallo. For this, I am going to be using Roma tomatoes because they're a little easier to work with. Cut each Roma tomato in half and then into quarters, and then remove the seeds with a knife and insert those into whatever container you have so you're just left with the outer flesh. Do this with each and every single one of your Roma tomatoes and make sure you save the innards of those tomatoes. Slice these into little almost julienne style slices and then rotate these 90 degrees and then start dicing all of your tomatoes. This will give you a really nice chunky Pico de Gallo, and this is one of my favorite ways of making this. So go ahead and slice all of your tomatoes first and then proceed to start dicing all of your tomatoes afterward. After 57 or so years, you should have all of these beautiful diced tomatoes for your Pico de Gallo. Now for the jalapeno. Just slice this in half, making sure you use a glove because it won't be fun in the bathroom later. De-seed this guy because it can be very spicy. After giving it a whiff, this jalapeno is going to be good enough to just use a half. You can kind of get a gauge for spiciness just by how it smells. Slice this pretty thin and then do a really small dice with this, almost a brunoise, which just means really tiny pieces of jalapeno because nobody wants to bite into a giant piece of jalapeno. With your glove on, just go ahead and dice up the rest of your jalapeno for something else. I like keeping this in the fridge for, I don't know, tuna salad. Now we are also going to small dice a white onion as well for this Pico de Gallo. I'm using about 100 grams worth of this white onion, so once you cut it up, just go ahead and place it into your bowl. Really, dude? Really? What is this? Is this a cooking show? Take the rest of your white onions and place them into whatever container you have, and you can use those for whatever you want later. Now we're going to add in 1/2 bunched worth of cilantro. I like chopping up all of this, the leaves, the stems, everything. Just make sure you do chop it up very finely so you don't get any of those leaves stuck in your teeth. Oh, and just get it all off your hand too. Now I am going to be using the juice worth of 1 lime into this Pico de Gallo, but feel free to use more lime and or lemon juice if you really want to because you're the one eating it, not me. Season this with the crowd favorite of black pepper and a little bit of kosher salt. Give this a good spooning just to make sure all of those flavors are nicely incorporated, and give it a taste. You want to make sure that everything starts tasting nice and well seasoned. Mine tasted like crap, so I added more salt and then gave it another taste, and this was good. Now throw in all of your pico into your container that doesn't fit, so you get a second container and you're making more dishes for no reason, and then put all of your pico into that container instead. Give this a taste and just start eating it by the spoon because it's that good. Let this sit overnight for maximum flavor, but don't let it sit for more than about 3 days. Now I'm also going to be making a beautiful roasted salsa. We are going to need some Roma tomatoes for this and those backup tomatoes that we had saved earlier. Go ahead and take your Roma tomatoes, toss them a little bit of oil, and place all of these on a sheet tray, and do the same thing with a couple of Anaheim chilies and your 1 jalapeno. The reason why we're doing this is because we actually have to char all of this. Now take 1 whole onion, remove the peel and the stems, place this on your sheet tray as well, and then we're going to throw on 1 shallot. This is kind of a secret ingredient for me because I like the way that the shallot adds some creaminess. Now we are going to need 4 to 5 cloves worth of peeled garlic as well, and once you have everything on your sheet tray, just make sure it's nicely greased up. We're going to take all this outside and start charring it on the grill. Keep your grill at about a medium-high heat to make sure that it starts charring everything but not just kind of burning everything. And for the garlic, just wrap it in some aluminum foil and toss it onto the grill. It'll be totally fine. This takes about 15 to 20 minutes, but what you're really looking for is a nice charred look on each and every piece of vegetable that you have on the grill. Some things will cook faster than others, and we're going to start off with the tomatoes first. And Paul, why did you move that 1 tomato over there and the other one's in the bowl? Remove the tomatoes first off of the grill with the onions coming off last. Once you have all that beautiful charred good off the grill, bring it back inside and throw all of this into a blender. You're not going to need to add too much liquid to this because those tomatoes should carry enough liquid to turn this into your beautiful roasted salsa. As far as the chilies go, just remove the stem and peel the flesh off of the chilies. If you want this to be spicy, include the seeds from the jalapeno, but just go ahead and remove them otherwise. Dump in all of those extra tomatoes that you had saved and use the container to smush everything down. Add in 1 entire lemon for its juice, and then 1 whole bunch of cleaned and fresh cilantro. Just pack it all in. It's going to be totally fine. Hit this with a good amount of black pepper and a hefty pinch of salt. Throw the lid on the correct way because you still don't know how to use this thing, and start blending this thing up until it is nice and smooth. After a few minutes, you have this beautiful salsa that tastes like nothing, so you have to add more salt and a little bit more lemon juice. Give this another blend for another minute or so. Watch Lucian zoom through the kitchen. Place these into your container of choice to cool down slightly before throwing these in the fridge, because remember, this is going to taste so much better overnight or just right now with chips. Just eat it with chips. Now we got to make our giant tortilla. For this, I'm going to need about 400 grams worth of all-purpose flour. Get your questionable scale and measure out 8 grams worth of baking powder, tossing that right into your flour, followed by about 5 grams worth of kosher salt. Give this a good forking just to incorporate all of those dry ingredients, and then grab 70 grams worth of cold, like refrigerator cold lard. Break this up slowly by hand just to start incorporating all of this lard into your flour. You want to make sure you don't knead this too hard. You're just trying to turn this into little crumbly bits of joy. Once you have crumbly bits of joy, take about 235 milliliters worth of water and slowly start incorporating this into your flour to start hydrating all of that dough. You want to make sure that you do this slowly, and you're going to have this really sticky, kind of messy boy, but do not add in more flour. Continue to work this dough until it is no longer sticking to your fingers too hard, and once you're at that step, throw this onto your cutting board and knead this for about 10 minutes. I like to do a bunch of methods like the slap and tuck if that's one of them, and making sure that I develop enough gluten so that way my tortillas do not break on me. Once you have kneaded this for about 10 minutes, roll this into a bowl, weigh it out, and start portioning all of your dough. Since I want a very large tortilla, I measured one of them at half the weight, so 350 grams, and then I just measured out the others to about 115 to 120 grams each. Roll these into their individual bowls and try to arrange these into some kind of a dough constellation on your cutting board, so that way you can take your bowl and place it over the top so this can rest for about 30 minutes. After about 30 minutes of resting, you should have these really beautiful soft balls of dough. Hit this with just a little bit of flour and pound this out by hand before grabbing your roller, and roll these out to be about 1/8 of an inch thick. These should be super thin before you start placing them into your cast iron. I have my cast iron over about a medium-high heat, greased it up, and threw my tortilla in, hoping for the best. I was able to get some nice bubbles out of this, and after I flipped it and cooked the other side for about a minute, I realized that these tortillas, they're kind of thick, and that probably has everything to do with the amount of baking powder I added. So I also tried rolling these out thinner and cooking them the same way, but I realized that my cast iron was just a little bit too small, or I could have cut these smaller and rolled them out so they were a little bit thinner to cook on my cast iron, but they still tasted amazing. So now with that thick boy tortilla, I actually decided to cut this. Stop playing with the dough, Paul. I actually decided to cut this into 2/3 and a third piece, so that way I can try to roll it out just a little bit thinner than the previous ones were. This still ended up being a large piece of dough, so I heated up my pizza stone to 450 degrees Fahrenheit and then threw my tortilla onto that, hoping for the best, and nothing happened. But I did get some bubbles out of this tortilla. After getting some bubbles, I gave it a little flip, and I was able to get a decent tortilla out of this. The hard part was maintaining that heat. So I rolled out the main tortilla to its largest I could after reheating the stone, carefully peeling this off, throwing it onto my actual, oh god, what just happened? So my pizza stone exploded. I was able to remove the tortilla, but this is a big RIP on the pizza stone, so let's get an F in the chat. As an attempt to salvage this tortilla, I threw this on a sheet tray over the actual stove top and tried to cook this up a little bit, but my tortilla just kind of fell apart at this point because it kind of got heated up, cooled down, tried to do something with it, and all I did was end up eating it. So I made a second tortilla, this time without the actual baking powder to hopefully be a little bit thinner, and I did this over the grill, and I sacrificed 2 cookie trays. Don't tell the wife, please send me new cooking trays. After very carefully cooking this on the grill, which I don't recommend you do, I was able to get this really beautiful giant tortilla. Listen, it's not a California burrito without Panda Express because they carry avocados, not really, you just need to ripen them. I'm using 2 large avocados for this, but feel free to add more if you want to make more guac, because everybody needs more guacamole in their life. After removing the avocado from the skin, go ahead and slice these up first into small slices and then cut those in half. The reason for this is I actually like cutting this into small diced pieces of avocado, so that way I can control how chunky my avocado is. Take all of your avocado, place that into a bowl. We're going to add in 1/2 bunch of very nice chopped cilantro straight to that avocado, followed by a hefty pinch of salt because it'll need it, as well as some black pepper, and the juice of 1 whole lemon. That's kind of up to you, but I like my guacamole to have a little bit of punchiness with a little bit of that acid. Continue to spoon this just a little bit, and then we're going to do a pro gamer move and take some of that Pico De Gallo that we had earlier and place that into your guac. Go ahead and continue to mix this until your desired level of chunkiness. I like mine to be about half and half, and we have this really beautiful guacamole. After you're done mixing, throw this into your container of choice and throw in one of those avocado seeds that I hopefully told you to save. Throw a lid on this and pop it in the fridge until you need it. Now every California burrito needs french fries, so we gotta make some french fries for this. I'm using a couple of nice russet potatoes, just slice them thin to about 1/2 inch thickness, stack those up and make french fries out of those individual slices. You're gonna have these really nice thick french fries after you're done cutting them up. Place them into a bowl after cutting all of your french fries, and then I like to let mine soak for about 10 to 15 minutes just to remove any excess starch, and then we're gonna blanch these for about 15 minutes in some boiling water that hopefully continues to boil if your stove isn't garbage. Now after After those 15 or so minutes and your potatoes have softened, go ahead and remove them from your water, place them onto a sheet tray with paper towel. Cool these down completely. I like to use the freezer for about 30 minutes before we decide to deep fry them. Deep fry these in oil set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit to get a nice, crispy, beautiful potato out of this. I don't care who you are, these are delicious. These are basically mashed potato in French fry form. Season them up and continue to fry. And just listen to this. Now that ding fries are done, we have to actually start grilling off the steak. Over a pretty high heat for your grill, go ahead and throw down all of your skirt steak, just making sure that you season the steak before you throw it on the grill. There wasn't enough salt in that actual marinade to make sure that this was seasoned properly, so just make sure it is seasoned. Grill these to your desired doneness. I like to go about a medium to medium rare on my skirt steak, making sure that you do try it fresh off the grill to see whether or not it's ready. Once it is done to your desired doneness, pull these off the grill as they start to finish, leaving on any larger pieces to continue cooking if need be. Now back inside, we can start cutting up all of this beautiful steak. You want to make sure you slice this thin enough so that way when you stack it into your burrito, you don't have any ginormous pieces of steak. That's actually a pretty crucial step. Continue to slice all of this until you have one giant beautiful pile of meat. Now to assemble the Megazord. After heating up your tortilla, pile on a good amount of your cheese of choice. I'm using Oaxaca cheese because it is one of my favorite for a burrito. After the cheese, layer on a hefty amount of your beautifully cooked steak, followed by your guacamole, making sure that it is totally covering that steak. Then your Pico De Gallo, making sure that the pico is right on top of that guac. You see how the layers are working now? Followed by finally your crispy French fries. But no burrito is complete without that dollop of daisy all over those French fries. God, I'm making myself hungry. Take the bottom of your tortilla, bring it towards the center, slowly tucking it in while you eat French fries. Then bring in the sides of your tortilla, making sure that they're totally closed off, and slowly start rolling your tortilla away from you to have this really tight boy. It's super important that this tortilla is nice and tight. Once you have completed your guardabosque de poder, you're going to take this entire burrito and place it onto a flat top to start sealing off the side. Make sure it is seam side down for about a minute and then remove it from that and place it into parchment paper. This is super extra and not necessary, but kind of necessary. Roll this into your parchment paper, sealing off all that extra steam, and then roll this into actual aluminum foil to seal off any of that extra heat like you would find at any awesome taco shop. Let's be honest, the awesome taco shops, you do it like this. This was so big, I needed a second piece of aluminum foil to wrap this thick boy burrito. And we're all wondering the same thing. 2.15 pounds. After weighing out your amazing burrito, celebrate by pouring yourself a nice glass of tequila, make it a double, add in your twist of lime because that is super necessary, and cheers to you. Now unravel your burrito after 3 to 4 minutes, saving that aluminum foil for another day, and we have this beautiful California burrito. Cut it in half and check out this cross section because my God, I need this in my mouth, all up in my mouth. There it is, guys, the Burrito XXL from Cyberpunk. Now, again, there wasn't too much information, so I went with one of my favorites, which is the California burrito with French fries. Not potatoes and not tater tots.
You're wrong.
Nope, French fries.
You're wrong.
This weighs over 2 pounds. My mouth is literally watering right now. It smells so good. The meat is cooked perfectly. You taste all of those chilies. Then you get some of the really nice creaminess from the guac and the sour cream. A little bit of crunchy from the potato. You have the cheese in it. Unfortunately, the cheese didn't melt as much as I would have liked, but it's this really nice mildness to it. Tastes like home. Like straight up tastes like home. Hopefully my home will be Night City, you know what I'm saying? Let me know what your favorite kind of burrito is. Definitely mine is the California burrito or the California breakfast burrito. That's amazing. My name is Chef PK. Get subscribed. Remember, keep playing with your food. Okay. You're gonna have that one. I'm taking all this salsa though.
No.
Yep, my salsa. Burrito.